Hey guys, my name is Matt Kendall. I'm a full-time photographer and wedding videographer, and in my last video I recommended purchasing 128GB SD cards to film your first wedding. Now, while this might satisfy some of you who are out there hopefully liking my videos as well as subscribing to the channel, I want to go more in depth so that way you get a better understanding of memory cards and what's going to work best for you as a photographer, a videographer, or even both. For starters, we've all seen SD cards, either as the standard looking SD card that you put in your DSLR, and then there's the micro SD card, which is primarily used for smaller pieces of equipment, such as drones, and even audio recorders like Tascam's DR10L. Taking a closer look at the SD card, you'll notice several different markings on the face of the card. This first and most obvious one that we all notice is the number of gigabytes that the card holds. In this example, this card holds 128GB of storage. Now, from a filmmaker's perspective, this is a reasonable amount of storage space to use, especially for weddings, whereas from the perspective of most photographers, this is considered plenty of storage space. So if you think trying to film a wedding on a 32GB SD card is going to be enough storage, good luck, and you're going to need 5 or 10 more of them, because filming an entire wedding day is going to require more than 32GB of storage. Right above the storage space of the card, you'll see this, which stands for 170 megabytes per second. This is just the read speed of the card when you go to download all the files from your memory card to your computer. Now, memory cards are going to have various read speeds that go way lower than this, but the information isn't always listed on the face of the card, so is it really important to know from our point of view? Not really. To the right of the memory card is what we really want to focus on, because we do want memory cards that are compatible with our cameras so we get the best results. This icon right here basically tells you how quickly the card writes off information, but this 10 means that it has a sustained write speed of 10 megabytes per second when it's in your camera. So in your camera, the card's sustained write speed would be 10 megabytes a second, but some memory cards may have a different number of 2, 4, or 6. However, 10 is the most common one you're going to see on the market today, because all the other numbers before 10 are pretty much outdated or discontinued. If you're a videographer, what I'm going to talk about next is going to be very useful for you to know. When we're looking for a new camera, you might go and look for the video format information of that camera. However, manufacturers don't give you the right speeds in megabytes. Instead, they give them to you in megabits. So now we get to use some math to figure this out, and I know what you're thinking. I'm sorry. Yes, we have to do math. Don't worry, I hated math too when I was in school and still to this day, but this is very simple to follow. 8 megabits equals 1 megabyte. So whenever you look at the video format information on a specific camera, all you need to do is divide the megabits by 8. And that'll give you the camera's read speeds for video in megabytes. On the top right corner, you'll notice this V30 icon. This is a video class icon, and this card in particular, having a 30 on it, designates it to have a sustained write speed of 30 megabytes a second, but there are other memory cards that can read 60 or even 90 megabytes a second. This is an icon that you'll want to look out for, because depending on the camera you own and its video format info is going to determine the video class that you're going to need. Now, V30 works very well on basically all DSLR cameras, but again, you'd have to look at your camera's video format info and convert it from megabits to megabytes to decide if you need a V30, a V60, or a V90 memory card. Just below that, we have another icon that relates to write speed, and this is known as a UHS Speed Class, or Ultra High Speed Class. Other memory cards will either show this icon as a 1 or a 3, 1 equaling 10 megabytes a second, and 3 equaling 30 megabytes a second. But this one is important because this ties into our next icon, which is right here. This icon tells you that this particular card is what's known as a UHS I card. If the icon were to have a Roman numeral 2, then this would be a UHS II card, and one difference between these cards is its visual appearance on the back. A UHS I memory card will have 1 row of pins that we're all familiar with, but a UHS II card is going to have 2 rows of pins. UHS II memory cards will have faster read and write speeds since it has 2 rows of pins, but if you buy a UHS II memory card and your camera only supports UHS I, then what's going to happen is your UHS II memory card is going to automatically default over to UHS I. And now the part that's going to make a lot more sense to you if I haven't blown your brain a bit already, because so far every icon that we've looked at relates to read and write speeds, which basically is a memory card in a nutshell. And while read and write speeds are important, this next piece of information is going to help give you a better understanding of what to look for in memory cards. What I want to point out though that'll differentiate everything is this icon right here. This icon tells you that the memory card is an SDXC memory card, but there are also memory cards known as SDHC. The big difference here is that that an SDHC memory card uses a file system known as FAT32. In simpler terms, this means the memory card is sorting and formatting your files a certain way. But in the video world, if you use an SDHC memory card and have files greater than 4 gigabytes, then your footage is going to be chopped up into individual 4 gigabyte files. So if you have a video file of 12 gigabytes, the memory card is going to chop everything up and store it in separate individual 4 gigabyte files. An SDXC memory card, however, uses what's called an exFAT file system to sort and format everything. And on top of that, it won't split up your video file if it's larger than 4 gigabytes, because SDXC memory cards can hold files well beyond 4 gigabytes. So long video files aren't going to get chopped up like they will in an SDHC memory card. Another thing to note is SDHC memory cards are easy to spot because they don't go beyond 32 gigabytes of storage space. So if you own memory cards that are 64 gigabytes or more, then that means you have SDXC memory cards, which are great for video. But as a photographer, this doesn't really affect you since picture file sizes don't really exceed 4 gigabytes anyway. To sum everything up, most icons on the face of your memory card indicate read and write speeds to either your camera or computer. If you're a videographer, you'll want to look for memory cards that are SDXC and have a video class of 30 megabytes a second or more. Storage space, I would recommend 64 gigabytes and up to suit the type of video projects that you'll be handling. I always stick with 128 gigabytes of memory because I want extra space on the card if I decide to film anything in 4K resolution. Depending on your camera, most likely you'll be sticking with UHS I memory cards as well, unless you know that your camera is compatible with UHS II. Now, if you're a photographer, I have really good news for you. Most, if not all, memory cards are going to work, but if you're going to be using continuous shutter or handling large raw image files, then I would also recommend just sticking with SDXC memory cards that are a UHS I, unless you know as well that your camera is compatible with UHS II. As far as storage space of the card, that's up to you. I use 64 or 128 gigabytes of storage since I already own a fair number of them and do projects for both photography and video. If you're looking to purchase or upgrade more memory cards, I will have links to all of my recommended memory cards in the description below for you to check out and purchase. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please don't forget to like this video, as well as subscribe to my channel. I'll be coming out with more content like this on both photography and wedding videography very soon. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.